don't need to project too much in this room, but my name is Stephanie. I'm really pleased to welcome you to our Women in Tech Leeds event today. I also give a really big welcome to those watching at home. So we are live streaming this all across the country for people to join us from the comfort of their own home as well. So a massive welcome to our online audience, as well as those of you who have managed to get into Leeds today and join us in person. So as I said, my name is Stephanie. I work at Generation. We are a global non-profit organisation, and I'm here representing the UK and Ireland. And you're going to hear much more about Generation and what we do and what we can offer in terms of tech upskilling and tech boot camps just a little bit later on. So as I said, we're a global non-profit, and we are also joined today by Not Going to Uni, who are the chaps at the back in the black who are joining us on the live stream today. And Not Going to Uni, as the name might suggest, are a great resource for those who have not been to university or are not intending to go to university as well. So why are we here today? We are here because of this statistic. So just 26.7% of UK tech workers identify as female. That isn't good enough. We know that isn't good enough, and we want to do something about it. So we hope that by coming and joining us today, or by joining us online today, you will leave feeling a bit more inspired, a bit more informed, and a bit more educated about the tech sector, and will want to join us in increasing this number and fixing the sort of challenge that we see before us. So in terms of what you can expect from this afternoon, you're going to have an introduction to the different areas of the tech sector via our wonderful speakers who are joining us today. You're going to hear much more about Generation and what we offer in terms of tech skills boot camps. You will get the opportunity to ask questions to a wonderful panel of speakers who have come and given up some of their time to speak to us today and share their experiences and their journeys into tech. You also have the opportunity to apply to a Generation boot camp that's running in Leeds soon, if that's what you'd like to do, and have your CV reviewed by some of our wonderful colleagues at Generation and volunteers from Microsoft and BJSS. And also have more time to meet each other as well. So those of you in the room will get the opportunity to speak more to each other and hopefully make connections with like-minded women who are interested in getting into the tech field. So without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker of the day, Zandra Moore from Pan Intelligence, who's very kindly given up a little bit of time today to come and speak to us, and is going to hopefully talk to us a bit about her journey into tech and what it's like to be her in tech as well. So I'll pass over to Zandra.
Hi everyone. Is that? Oh, that's the clicker. Right. Might do notes, clicker, and mic. That's going to be an interesting combo, isn't it? So we'll see how we get on. We'll ditch the notes. Okay, lovely to see you all today. I'm going to give you a bit of a whistle-stop tour on my personal journey, and then a little bit about the sector and industry that I work in, just to give you an idea, really, of a particular space in technology which is getting all very exciting and giddy with itself, which is data analytics and AI. So let me start with who I am. So I'm a CEO and co-founder of a data analytics software business here in Leeds. We're by Leeds Bradford Airport. Everyone know Murgatroyd's Chippy? If you're a local lass, you will, because it's wherever you get a plane, you come back into the UK and you've got nothing in your fridge, and you're on your way back from the airport, you go into Murgatroyd's and get yourself a chip butty on the way home. So we're behind the famous fish and chip shop just by the airport. And I'm a Yorkshire lass, born and bred. Now, how many of you are actually from Yorkshire? Because if you're not, I'm going to teach you some really good Yorkshire phrases, which will definitely help you in job interviews. Well, maybe not. But anyone heard this one? Shy bairns get nout. Yes, come on, that's a nod. What does it mean? Do you know? If you don't know, don't worry. No, okay. So it means if you don't ask, you don't get, as in, put your hand up and ask the question, because if you don't, you're probably not going to get the answer. So shy bairns get out. And I learnt that wonderful phrase from my mother. This is a picture of my mum, me and my daughter. Now, my daughter on here is about 10 years old. She's actually 16 going on 17, and the boyfriend's virtually living in the bedroom now with her. So she's a very different girl to the one on this picture. But I was lucky enough to have a role model at home. And it can be really difficult to start a career in something where you don't see yourself present. And tech has that problem. But I was lucky because my mum was in tech. I mean, she was a really early vanguard. We have a paper called the Yorkshire Post here in Leeds. And she opened up the Yorkshire Post, when both of us had gone off to school and went, I'll go and get a job then, because she'd been a stay-at-home mum. She'd started her life as the eldest of 7 children, and my granddad ran off with a 19-year-old when he won the pools. So my grandmother was at home with 7 children on her own, and my mum was surreptitiously dragged out of school and told to get out and work at 14. So she had no O-levels, no qualifications. She'd been a stay-at-home mum, and then she opened the newspaper, and in there was a job advert for a company called Digital Equipment Corporation, which you may not have heard of. Don't worry if you haven't. We were one of the first computing companies to sell computers into businesses. She'd never used a computer. She didn't know what a computer was, really. She just knew there was a job for a sales administrator at this company, and off she went. She started working in Horsforth, just outside Leeds, and worked as an admin and then a salesperson, and then before she knew it, she was a manager of sales for the whole of the team in Yorkshire. And then they shut the office down. So she found herself travelling backwards and forwards to Warrington, which is just the other side of the Pennines, over in Manchester, and she got sick of it. She got stuck on, it was the M62 in snow, and decided that when she found herself walking 2 miles in the snow in her high heels, that maybe that wasn't the job for her anymore. So she went back home and said, right, I need a new job, opened up the Yorkshire Post and looked again in the paper and found an advert for a company called Planet Online, the first ever internet service provider in the north of England, based here in Leeds. She didn't know what the internet was. It was called the Information Superhighway when she was selling it. So she went and applied for this job. She went, well, I've sold computers. I can sell this Information Superhighway malarkey. Employee number 3, she went in and started selling things like Information Superhighway, basically website to Lloyds, Barclays, some of the biggest brands in the UK. One of her best stories she told me was when she went into a boardroom, walked through the door, told them about the Information Superhighway. I won't name the bank, but because we've got a bank in the room, and it isn't them, I'll assure you. Walked into the room, gave the pitch. Halfway through, they said, we're just going to have a break, Mrs. Utley, that's my maiden name. Walked into the back room, they had a cigar and a glass of whiskey. I shit you not, this is what they did. And they came back in, all of these old blokes, went, I don't think the Information Superhighway is for us, Mrs. Utley. I don't think they spoke Yorkshire, but anyway. But came in and said no, and then she went down the road and sold it to Barclays for £1 million. The point was, she had no idea about tech. She just liked the sound of the things that she was going to sell that were going to change the world. She had no qualifications. She came from nothing, from a single-parent family. And by the end of her career, she was running some of the largest sales teams in technology businesses in Leeds. So you can do it from nothing. So don't be dissuaded that this sector isn't for you. So it's very hard to not be persuaded by an incredible person like that at home. So I was dead lucky. I basically just wanted to be my mum when I left school. I was like, she's looked like she's having a really good time selling some cool stuff, so that's what I did. And I went on to work in lots of tech companies because I just wanted to be my mum. Again, lots of Leeds companies that you may not have heard of. There's lots of tech companies in Leeds, loads of them. Lots of opportunity here, loads of opportunity, and they desperately want women to work for them. Trust me, they do. Mainly because people like my mum did a good job. And seriously, there's some brilliant opportunities. And I got to the point where I'd worked my career up to sales director role for a company, and then I had 2 kids. And unfortunately, and we're going back 16, 17 years ago, well, you only got 6 months maternity pay. It was pretty crap. There wasn't many part-time roles for women at that level, in fact none, and actually they would laugh at you if you asked for a part-time job as a director of a tech company. They'd go, no, you can go back to doing something a little bit more administrative. So it wasn't really at the time, 17 years ago, a big opportunity for me. So that was the tipping point for me where I decided I probably need to do something for myself. This is a quote from an amazing human rights activist from California. But it really is true. You can't be what you can't see. That's why today is really important, because you can hear from people that are telling you can do this, and don't let the things in your head tell you can't, because most of it is our own self-limiting beliefs that stops us from achieving what we need to achieve. So hopefully you'll take a little bit from what I'm going to tell you today, and it will give you a little bit of fire in your belly to believe you can. When I decided with 2 very small children to do it myself, which is what do it this end means in Yorkshire, I looked around and went, well, where are all the women? Where are all the women running companies? I want to start a business. How do I do it? I went to the Institute of Directors. Anybody heard of the Institute of Directors? Probably one of the most old-fashioned institutions in the UK for business leaders. And it's not innovating fast, I'll be honest with you, because I walked into a room and I got asked by two people in the room where the tea and coffee was, and someone literally passed me their coat and said, "Can you put that in the cloakroom?" Because I was the only woman in the room, and I was wearing a black skirt and a white shirt. Don't do that to networking events because people do think you're a waitress. But genuinely, it was obvious to me that there weren't many organisations set up to support women that wanted to start companies. So, do it yourself. I set my own organisation up. In fact, anybody heard of Sheryl Sandberg? No? So read this book. If you can take one thing away, read this book. It's called Lean In. And Lean In is, Sheryl Sandberg is the chief operating officer of what was Facebook, is now Meta. Whatever you think of Meta and Facebook, she's a real inspiration. She's one of those leaders in technology that tells a story from a woman's perspective about how you can actually have a different view of what you can do for yourself to drive your own success in your career. Really inspirational book. I read the book, and at the back of the book it said, "Look for a circle near you." Well, she did work for Facebook. Of course, they had a social media platform to connect people together. You know, they were sort of selling their own wares, really, weren't they? So I looked, and there wasn't one in Leeds. I set one up. First meeting, there was 20 of us. Second meeting, there was 30 of us. There's 2,000 of us in Leeds. 2,000 women that meet twice a week in Leeds. Some are entrepreneurs, some are aspiring entrepreneurs, some are women in tech, some are people that want to be in tech. Real mix of people, but it's a safe space for you to go and meet other people like you and go, "Are you having the same experience as me? And could you recommend somebody who, have you," just questions where you feel safe enough to ask them. So Lean In Leeds, just type it into Google, join the network, and it's a brilliant safe space, especially if you're thinking of changing things in your career. So do it yourself. If you can't find a network, go out and find people to support you. Go and use this room, the people you meet today. Make sure you swap details with each other. Make sure you get each other's LinkedIn or Facebook, or what's the other one with the twizzly thing now that is not Twitter anymore? Is it X now or whatever? It's, you know, what's the other one? Threads, goodness. I have no idea what I'm on these days. X's and Threads and God knows what. But anyway, go and connect. Whatever you do, just find each other and stay in touch, because these networks can be really, really valuable to your success. So when I was going out there and networking and speaking to people, I set up my first business. It was called Sales Cake. I was a bit obsessed with cake. I was breastfeeding at the time, my second, so carrot cake had become a new thing. So making sales a piece of cake became what my business was about. And I went to help other small technology companies start their businesses. How do you get your product sold? How do you find customers? And that's what I was doing. And I went out and I sold my time to all these companies. And what I found was in every company that I was working with and for, they all had the same problem. And the problem that they had was they were building these incredible pieces of technology, collecting all this information, helping companies to manage their processes, manage their admin, manage workflows, whatever it might be, help their workers to work remotely. But they had all this data, and then the users of this software couldn't get to it. They're like, "I just want a spreadsheet. I just want to download some information. I just want to be able to find out what's actually happening." They were doing a great job of collecting information, but they weren't doing a very good job of helping people to get that information back out. I thought, oh, gosh, this is a bit of a challenge, isn't it? How do we solve this? And everyone was having a go at doing it. And then I met this really interesting guy called Ken Miller. And what Ken Miller was doing was solving this problem. Anybody know what SaaS is? So software as a service. So everything that we've been using since COVID pretty much is in the cloud, is hosted on something like Amazon Web Services or Azure, which is Microsoft, all these different environments. Because actually, as soon as COVID happened, nobody was putting software on boxes in buildings anymore. They were putting it up in the cloud, frankly. So all these products, which are apps that you have on your phone, whether it's a banking app for HSBC, whether it's a social media app, whether it's an app for recording who your customers are, whether it's an app for making payments like Xero, you'll have probably heard of some of these tools. They're all in the cloud. And all of these providers of software were being used by lots and lots of companies that were shouting, that were going, "I have a problem." And that's the problem, data's everywhere. So you don't need to be an expert in tech to know that when you've got lots of apps on your phone, when you've got lots of technology, is all of that data connected? The lights have gone down. This is Amazon telling me to stop talking. Don't worry, I can keep talking in the dark. It's not that dark, it's fine. So there's lots of data up in the cloud, and it's a problem, and people want to get to it, and they want to connect it together. And the thing is, when you think about data, sometimes you think it's lots of spreadsheets. If everyone used Excel, we all know you've got lots and lots of data in a spreadsheet. It's hard to see what's actually happening, and you have to do pivots and complex filters, and you mess around with it for ages. You're just trying to get to a number that's useful, right? People spend hours and hours and hours and hours trying to just get to an answer. But the reality is, most people consume data visually. Numbers don't really help us in long, long, long lists. Our brains are not designed to process data in long, long lists. We can't consume it that way. We're not designed. We're designed to consume it visually. And all of these software vendors were going, hey, my customers are moaning at me. We've got all their data and we're not able to give it to them easily. And essentially what happened was I sat down with Ken, who I'd met at one of these networking events, and went, well, I'm building this thing and it's called Pan Intelligence. And what it does is it takes data and it turns it into visual, graphical images so that anybody can understand that data easily and they don't have to process it in spreadsheets. I was like, genius. I was like, that's absolutely amazing. I says, can you do that in a way that software vendors can use? He was like, well, yeah, we're actually doing it for ourselves. He says, we're building it in another company. It's a software business. He says, could we sell it to other software vendors? And absolutely. I went, can I come and help you? And before you knew it, the two of us had bought the IP, which meant we'd basically bought the software from the other company, and we'd set up a business called Pan Intelligence. The business he was working for was Pan Credit. You can see our first iteration of my logo. It's now a lovely pink logo. It used to be blue. Vetoed that very quickly when we bought the IP. But it was a piece of software that helped people that were building software to turn their data into something that was visual and easy to understand, that anybody could use, that didn't rely on you having to be an expert in Excel and pivot and analyse and do all sorts of groovy stuff. So I suddenly found myself, not just as a founder of a consultancy business, which was called Sales Cakes, that was business number one, I found myself a founder of a software business. And I'd never run a software company, I've never been a CEO, I've never run a business properly. Sit yourself down, don't worry at all. And that was in 2014. So 2014, I literally convinced my husband to empty our bank account, help me buy the software. Through gritted teeth, he agreed. I then found a few more people to help me invest in the business. My first, what they call family and friends investors, people to give us some money to basically buy software. And we set the business up. And we now have over 400 customers. We're turning over millions, which is great. We're global. We are in the US, in the UK. I have staff in different countries, and it's been quite a ride, really. But if you'd have asked me, when I had kids and I was working out whether or not I could go it alone, I thought going it alone was being self-employed and selling my time to other people. 16 years later, I have a global company that has a lot of staff and turns over a lot of money, and I've never written a line of code. Never written a line of code. But I have a big tech company. Well, I consider it big. 40 is not big, but to me it's big, right? So this isn't about whether you started your journey in tech and you're into coding. It doesn't matter whether you just want to be self-employed or you want to be a developer. I never set out to be a CEO of a fast-growing tech company in data analytics and AI. I didn't. That's what's happened. But you know what? It's more than within anybody's capability. It really is. And my mum was a real testament to that. And if I hadn't had my mum as a role model to show me that the eldest of 7 from a single-parent family that had no education and came from nothing could have the success she could have, why couldn't I? So we do this stuff. I'm not going to bore you with it. This is the techie bit. But if you're interested and you want to get into tech, data is pretty cool right now, okay? You can't literally switch on your social media feed without a robot staring at you at the moment, true? It's literally AI, God, generative AI. If you haven't played with ChatGPT yet, then you're probably one of a few people on the planet that's got access to a phone or a laptop. So we do technology that allows people to visualize data easily, allows them to alert and notify them of things that are happening, but also build machine learning models. If you're not from Leeds and you're studying in Leeds, or you plan to stay in Leeds, or you're not sure whether Leeds is the right place for you, it bloody is. Right? Leeds is absolutely awesome. And I'll tell you why it's awesome. Number one, there's lots of tech companies here that want to employ you. Number 2, there are lots of networks and communities that want to support you. And number 3, it's a really cool fucking city where you actually, sorry, there's a child in the room, sorry. A really good city that has a really brilliant cost of living, green spaces. It's a family here. You know, we were talking earlier that I go from Leeds to London to San Francisco, and when I come back to Leeds, it's like a big hug. And I walk in a room and I see lots of faces that put a bed up for me when I get back from London and do really nice things for me that make me feel at home here. It's a lovely place to build a career and build a business. So these are just some examples of networks and organisations that you should look into. Everyone can have a copy of this presentation afterwards. Please circulate it. So last Yorkshireism, short arms, deep pockets. That's what they say about Yorkshiremen. Mainly because a pint's really cheap here in comparison to London. That's going to be the cost of the pint by 2030. So £6.70 a pint. In London, it's going to cost £10.50 a pint. There's a reason not to go back to London if you're from London, by the way. But it's a brilliant place to build a career because you can actually have a fantastic quality of life here. You can have a fantastic quality of life, afford a nice home, have access to green spaces. There's enough of a digital ecosystem and a support system for anybody to have a great base and a great start. Last phrase. I'll let you just read it for a second. If I've made you feel anything today, take one thing away. You've got it. Just do it. Yeah? Just do it. Right. That's me done.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much. I mean, what I'm feeling is that I want to move out of London now. I definitely want to come up and move to Leeds now. Thank you so much, Zandra. That was hopefully really inspiring. I found it inspiring. So up next, we're again very, very proud and very lucky to be able to introduce another wonderful speaker who's going to be talking to you about her own journey and her own experience in tech. So could we please welcome Dipa Kapadia from Bank of America? And I will just grab your slides up for you quickly. I'm going to also ditch my notes. There you go. Oh, no. Okay, so thank you all for coming today. And I'm quite honoured to be here today. We, from a generation perspective, Bank of America have partnered with Generation for a number of years, initially starting in Italy. And in my current role, I have now started partnering with Generation from a UK perspective as well to see how we can help people who are on their courses to either volunteer to coach and mentor them, or even find opportunities to get roles at Bank of America. So a little bit about myself, Dipa Kapadia. I work at Bank of America. I've been there for 21 years. I started very, very young, like when I was 4. No. And my current job is I run the business process and control group for technology and operations from an international perspective. That is everything outside of the US. What does that mean? That means looking at our processes and looking at risk and making sure that we're adhering to policies and standards from a bank perspective, but also from a regulator perspective. And my team gets involved in making sure that we're providing materials to senior executives at the board level, legal entity level, and regulator level. So it's a new job for me. I've only been in this role for 8 months, but I'm finding it really, really exciting, especially
with all the proactive risk management work that I'm doing from a country risk perspective. I'm sure you've heard about Russia, Ukraine. And we, from a bank perspective, had to do a lot of risk management to make sure that we weren't being impacted by the crisis that was happening with Russia, Ukraine, given that we had an office in Russia. And so we were looking at that now more proactively to say, where are all our other high-risk countries, and what do we need to do to make sure that we are de-risking ourselves, even though we've got offices there. How do we make sure that we're working in a responsible way, that should something happen from a bank perspective, we're okay. So that's what I do. But I also co-lead the Environment, Social and Governance Group for Technology and Operations in the region. And that's how I've actually started partnering with Generation to see, how we can help from a technology perspective. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my career. I never thought I was going to be in technology, ever. I wanted to be a maths teacher when I was at school. I loved maths, and I loved helping other fellow students who were struggling, and we used to have lunchtime classes, and I used to just love teaching maths, so that's what I wanted to do. When I went to university, I did an IT course, and I absolutely loved it. I created this program with funky buttons and did cool things, and I thought, yes, this is where I want to be. I want to be in technology. But when I started applying at that time, a lot of places wanted a computer science degree, which I didn't have. I'd never coded anything in my life. So I only applied to places where that wasn't a prerequisite. I didn't even bother going to the ones where they needed computer science degree. To my astonishment, I actually got a few job offers, and I started my career at NatWest. They taught me everything. They taught me how to code, assembler PL1, and I loved the job there. Absolutely loved it. But when Royal Bank of Scotland took NatWest over, I decided that it was time for me to leave. Not because I had something against Royal Bank of Scotland, but because I wasn't learning anything. I was deemed as the standing orders and direct debits expert, and I had to tell consultants that this field in NatWest goes into this field in RBS. And I had to do that for the next 2 years. And I was like, I'm not learning anything. And I was young, I was hungry to learn more, and I didn't want to become stale for 2 years and not learning anything. So I decided to change my job. Took the first job there that I went to, again, that was at Dresdner, doing application support. I didn't have the experience for application support. Hadn't been on a trading floor ever. Didn't have the technical skills to do the job at all. But I was quite transparent, quite honest. I have not done an SQL script at all. I've not learned anything. But what they found interesting, and I think what they liked about me, was the fact that I worked at Primark when I was at university, and I dealt with difficult customers and knew how to handle difficult customers. So I think that's why I got the job. I learned all the tech stuff on the job, and for everyone who doesn't know what application support is, I call it the 999 service for IT. So we're on the trading floor. If something breaks, there's an issue from an IT perspective, it's my team that gets called to say, you need to fix it, and you need to fix it ASAP. I loved it. I absolutely loved the job. I loved the adrenaline rush that you get when you have a problem, and then you go in there, you fix the issue, what I call, putting out the fire, and then you look into why did it go wrong, make sure it doesn't happen again, and saving the day. So that was my role at Dresdner. I moved to Merrill Lynch 18 months later to do exactly the same job with all the same systems, but with a lot more money. So why not? And I've stayed at Merrill Lynch, which turned into Bank of America ever since. And each stage of my journey at Bank of America, Merrill Lynch Bank of America, I've been learning continuously. I started off in the equities business, moving into markets, and then leading to run the whole region from a Europe, Middle East, and Africa perspective for application support. And I absolutely loved it. And then at the end of last year, I moved to something completely different, doing risk and control, but, just got on with it and dealt with it. That's my journey so far, and I've absolutely loved it. I've had 2 kids while I was working, and my first experience back to work was very different to my second experience back to work, but during that time, I was part of the D&I Council to help bring more females into technology. When I first joined the bank, I was the only woman in the team. And from there to where we are now, we've made a lot of progress, but there's a lot more still to do. So I thought I'd mention a couple of things that I've learned on the way, the hard way, and maybe it might help you. Always be curious. Ask questions. No question is a silly question, honestly, because if you're thinking about it, someone else is thinking about it in the room as well, I'm sure. Always have that willingness to learn something new. I took on different challenges. Sometimes I wasn't confident. There was something behind me saying, no, you can't do this. But there was a turning point in my career where I took a really big job when I had 2 really, really small kids, and that was the turning point for me, where I actually took a leap of faith to do something that I wasn't comfortable doing, but others knew that I could do it. And it was, that's what actually exponentially grew my career after having my children. I'm not going to go through all of them. Don't take things personally. That's where the whole customer service thing comes into play. There will be situations where things get heated, but it's all about the situation. It's not about you personally. So stick to the facts. Don't take things personally, because that's not a good way to take, to do it. It's all about, let's think about things objectively, practically, and how do we move forward from a situation. From a leadership perspective, be honest, be visible. I think I was very honest when I went to all my interviews. I don't know how to do this, but I'm more than happy to learn, and I'm willing to learn and pick it up. It's really, really important. And when I'm managing a team as well, in my production support role, I was managing 120 people. Just being there, being honest, being transparent, giving them the feedback that they need. Sometimes it might not be a good message, but it needs to be said, right? And you get that trust, and people will value you more for being honest than for being not as honest. Just like what Zandra said, build relationships. It's so important. Your network could be your next stepping stone. And throughout the years, I've kept in touch with a lot of people from my previous roles as well, and we have catch-ups, because you just don't know what will, come out of it. They might need you, and you'd be happy to help, and you might need them, and they'll be happy to help. So, I have a sounding board with a lot of people in the bank, but outside the bank as well, just to help you through or talk through something that you might find, you just want to have that checkpoint in terms of, am I doing the right thing? So that's me. Just to end, talking a little bit about technology. There isn't enough women in technology, and there's a huge demand of women in technology. And technology is everywhere. It's growing exponentially, and there was a study in 2021 where they said that 85% of the tech roles haven't even been invented yet when we get to 2030. So there is so much opportunity to get involved in technology, and it doesn't matter where you want to go, which industry you want to go. Technology is absolutely everywhere. So please look at that, and if you're interested, and it doesn't have to be coding. You know, so ever since my days in NatWest, I haven't written a line of code. I haven't at all. But there's so many roles in technology. It's not just about coding. That's it.
Which I love. It's a really nice message to take away. And we've had two people now saying you don't have to code if you don't want to. If you want to code, fantastic. If you don't, that's okay. And there's lots of opportunities in tech in lots of different areas without necessarily coding. All right, we're going to take a 2-minute break now. So feel free to stretch your legs or stretch your legs at home. And we'll be back in just a second. stretch your legs if you're online. Hope you had the same opportunity. So I mentioned our employers. So I thought it'd be interesting to show you just a really small selection of some of the employers that we have worked with in the UK alone. So this is not globally, this is just in the UK. Hopefully there are that you recognise. There's some really cool household names on there. And possibly a few that you haven't recognised as well, but are very much up and coming and growing in the industry. So what I think is really interesting about this slide as well is that it's not just tech companies. It's not just tech companies. You might be sat there thinking, okay, I want to get into tech. Maybe today, before you heard our speakers, you thought, oh, I need to be a coder to be able to get into tech. I need to work for sort of a software company or something similar. We're here to kind of bust some of those myths today. So you've already heard that to get into tech, you don't necessarily need to code if that's not your thing, if that's not your bag. But this is also hopefully showing you that you also don't even need to work in a tech company to have a tech role and to have a really fulfilling role in tech. So I hope there's a few here maybe I can pick out for you. So we have Gymshark. So we had one of our wonderful female generation graduates who now works at Gymshark as a cloud engineer come and talk to us at a different event recently. We have, Clearly, I'm just picking out all the fashion ones here because that's what I'm interested in. But we have Depop as well, River Island. So lots of things on that, as I said, that aren't necessarily tech. So you can pursue your interest in tech while also pursuing interest in other industries or other areas of work as well. So if you are, for example, someone who is interested in fashion and tech, you could plump for a company or an organisation that hits both of those interests. Okay, so how will the bootcamp actually feel? So I mentioned briefly earlier that the boot camps are all online. So this is all online delivery. And we do that for a few reasons. It means that we can reach people wherever they are. You can learn with us from the comfort of your own home or from a study space if that's something you prefer to do. We can recruit expert instructors from all over the country. We're not tied by geography. And we just think it's a really interesting and really cool modern way to learn as well. But it's not the same as traditional distance learning. So you're not kind of sat at home just seeing your instructor on the screen, feeling a bit lonely, feeling a bit isolated. What you can hopefully see from the screenshot there is that you've got a whole class full of smiling people and smiling faces that you'll get to know really, really well. So community is really at the heart of what we do in terms of how we run our boot camps. You will get to know each other and your classmates very, very well. They will become your first professional network in the industry. You're all aiming towards the same goal and have the same aspiration, and you'll stay connected in the future. You'll become part of that generation alumni community and lean on each other and help each other in the future. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit more now about the kind of building blocks of the program and what you'll actually learn on it. So there's three main building blocks of our bootcamp programs. We have the generation mindsets, the technical skills, and the behavioural skills. So the technical skills are probably the most self-explanatory one. We're going to teach you the tech skills that you need in order to be able to do the job or go into the industry that you have chosen. So if you are on a cloud engineering program, we will teach you all the tech skills you need to be successful in your first cloud engineering job after generation. Okay? So that's probably the self-explanatory bit. But then we move on to generation mindset. So we're not just about teaching you the tech skills. We're not just about kind of giving you some sort of hard skills in tech and then moving you on and you kind of stay the same person just with a few more tech skills than you had 10 weeks ago. We're also interested in actually developing other aspects of you and your personality and your confidence level. So when you leave generation, yes, you will have the tech skills, but you'll also have this incredible thing called growth mindset as well. So we talk a lot about growth mindset at Generation. This is all about how you react and how you cope when you get knocked down. We all get knocked down sometimes. We all fail sometimes. It's about how you react to that, how you get back up. So we teach you how to be resilient and perseverant. I think that's the word. And to have the grit that you need to sometimes take those knocks in the future. By the time you leave, you'll not only have those tech skills, but you have this amazing increased sense of aspiration and confidence and belief in yourself that you can do this. So our speakers earlier said, if you take one thing away from today, you can do it, and just do it. You've got nothing to lose. So we really kind of zone in on those messages as well during the bootcamp. And then lastly, we teach you the behavioural skills. So sometimes these might be called soft skills. We call them behavioural skills. We think that's a nicer way of putting it. And these are the things that are going to make you a really standout colleague. So yes, you'll have the tech skills, but to be a really standout colleague, you also need to be great at communication and teamwork, and being great with customers and managing stress and managing kind of stakeholders internally and externally. All of those kind of amazing skills that will develop within you, whether or not you've had experience developing those skills in the past or not. So they are the three kind of building blocks that our programs consist of. And all of these three things together produce our wonderful generation graduates who are then ready to step into a brand new career, a brand new industry, and be happier in that role than perhaps they would have been before generation. So, we know that sounds amazing. We hope that sounds amazing. But we also know it sounds like a lot. It's quite intense. Our boot camps are quite intense, quite intense by design. They're sort of Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. They can feel quite full on. And we know that life happens. Life doesn't pause for the 10 or 11 weeks that you're doing a boot camp. Life does happen. And there's lots of support there for you if and when it does. So lots of support for you pre-program, on the program, and post-program. So even before you start on the program, you'll be meeting with a mentor who's going to talk to you about how we can best support you through the program. Do you have any particular needs that you needed to support you with? Is it childcare? Are you looking after elderly parents? Is it a mental health challenge that you have? Whatever it might be, we have experience of supporting people with a whole range of different circumstances and different challenges. Then while you're on the program, you'll still have a mentor that is attached to your classroom. So you will meet regularly with a mentor who is there to deal with any pastoral support you might need. You'll have your instructor who's there to give you all the academic information and knowledge and tech skills. But then you'll also have your mentor who's there to help you in all of the other ways as well. And particularly to help you, as I said, if and when life happens. And then post-program, we don't say goodbye straight away. We would hate to say goodbye straight away, that'd be horrible. So we will support you for up to 6 months after the program while you're getting into work. So we will support you with an employment coach who will help you with your CV and thinking about interviews and assessment centres and all of that kind of thing. But they'll be there for you to lean on during that job search as well. So it's a really long-term relationship. Although the main bulk of your time with Generation will be on the bootcamp, it becomes a really cool long-term relationships, and we have great relationships with so many of our alumni and our graduates who come back and talk to us and come back and support us. So I'm going to leave you with a couple of next steps if you are interested. So all of our programs have some basic eligibility criteria that we need all of our learners to meet. So that consists of an age criteria, so you should be aged over 18. Most of our programs now are open to anyone over the age of 18. A couple of them are limited to those aged between 18 and 30. So just have a look at the particular program that you're interested in on our website, and it will tell you what the age criteria is. But as I said, most now are open to those over 18. We are looking to work with people particularly who are not in education or currently working or in any form of training. If you are working part-time or have a 0-hour contract, come and have a chat to us. Okay, we will assess that on a kind of case-by-case individual basis. There is no blanket rule for that. But on the whole, we are typically looking to work with people who are not in education, employment or training. You must have the right to work in the UK, whether that's as a British passport holder or as a visa holder. And you should be available for the duration of the programme. So the programmes are quite intense, as I said. They're designed really, really well, to fit in all the content within a short space of time. So you graduate from the programme feeling really prepared. But it's important that you are available for the duration. And that sounds kind of silly to say, but that you're ready to start a job afterwards. That you sort of feel mentally like, yeah, no, I think I would be happy to step into a new career or a new job. Sometimes it happens really quickly. Sometimes it can take a couple of months after the boot camp. Sometimes it can only take a matter of weeks before you secure your first role in this new industry. So you must be ready. And this is a really important point to emphasize. So as I said before, we're a non-profit. We're not looking to work with people who are super, super qualified, have loads of very fancy looking degrees or loads of professional experience. We are particularly looking for people who haven't worked in tech before, who have a burning interest, and the fact that you're here today or you're watching online shows us that you do have that interest. But we're not looking for pages and pages of qualifications or experience. So if that's something that maybe you were worried about before today, if you were thinking, I'd love to get into tech, but I just don't have the experience, I'm not going to get my foot through the door, this could be a really interesting route for you. Okay. And so what you can do today, whether you're in the room or whether you're online, is to speak to a Generation rep, so that would be myself, or my colleague Ashleen, who's at the back, or my colleague Jess, who's just nipped out. Or if you're online, you can ask us some questions and we'll get in touch with you. Ask us about the programmes that you're particularly interested in. Ask us what's coming up in the Leeds region or in other regions of the UK if you're watching online. Check out the website to see which programmes are available at the moment and to read up more about the programmes to see which one takes your fancy the most. And check which programme you're eligible for as well. So we have a really nifty tool on the homepage of the website called the Eligibility Checker. So you put in a few basic details about yourself and it will just show you all the programmes that you're eligible for, saving you lots and lots of time looking through all of the different programmes. Okay. So hopefully that's at least introduced you to a new route or a new avenue into tech that you might not have thought about before, and potentially even inspired you to take that first step. And as Zandra said earlier, just do it. You've got nothing to lose at all. Okay. All right, we're going to take another short 1-2 minute break, and then we're going to come back with our wonderful panel in just a second. Thank you. Might have a couple of people sneaking back in from the bathroom in just a second, but that's okay. So really pleased to move on to the next session of the day, which is our panel session, which is a really exciting one where we get to hear a bit more from some wonderful women currently working in tech. So I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves because you're going to do a much better job of it than I will be able to. So perhaps, Jodie, you can start and tell us who you are and kind of a little bit about your role.
Sure. Yeah, hi everyone. Really nice to be here. So my name's Jodie Wharton. I work at Microsoft. I've been there 3 years. And I work as a pursuit lead in our cloud business, which essentially means I work as part of a team that proactively goes out to win big contracts. So involved very much in a sales cycle, but setting cloud strategy and helping customers decide on where they're going to take their infrastructure and their IT journey. So yeah, exciting.
That's it. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Grace and I work at Neo Group. I've been in tech for over 6 years, and about my role is I lead a wide range of tech experts, like from designer to developers. And what I do majorly is I review code and also refactor code, and I also do product strategy and product roadmap just to know what product we are rolling out, the technological importance of it, how we want to build it, how it can work with customers, is it what customer needs, a lot of product management activities also that I do. So yeah, that's what I do majorly at Neo Group.
For those who've already forgotten, I'm Dipa Kapadia. I work for Bank of America and I run the International Technology and Operations Risk and Control Group.
Amazing, thank you so much. What a lineup. So to Grace and Jodie, because you've heard a little bit about Deepa's journey already, could you please give us just a bit of an overview of your journey into tech and how that happened? Was it always a passion, or we've heard from speakers at previous events that actually, no, it probably wasn't a passion and it just kind of sparked one day, or they fell into it accidentally. So what was your journey into tech?
Okay, so I got into tech because of mathematics. I'm a lover of math, so I started coding because I could use programming language to solve mathematical problems. So when I saw that I could actually do that, I was interested, and I got into tech. That was how I actually got into it. But majorly, I'm very solution-oriented, and that's why I studied mathematics. So because I saw tech as a platform to actually build solutions, I just okay, let me just start my journey from that.
Amazing. So what I love there is that you kind of started by looking at almost the qualities and the things that you like doing. So you like finding solutions and problem solving and kind of going from there. So, okay, what could suit me then? What kind of job would suit me or industry would suit me? Lovely. And Jodie?
Yeah, I was definitely one of those that didn't want to get into tech. When I was at school, we didn't really even do computing when I was at school, but we did business studies, which involved a computer, and I hated every minute of it. I did really well in my GCSEs, and then I went on to do A-levels, and I just got bored and didn't want to do it and dropped out and didn't know what I was going to do with my life. Tried again the following year, dropped out again, and was a bit lost working at Safeway and really wasn't sure what I was going to do. And a job came up as an office junior, I was 17 at the time, for a software reseller, and I just thought, didn't require A-levels or a degree, and I'll just go for it and see what happens. And one of the benefits of that role as an office junior is I sort of got exposure to different parts of a tech company. I certainly haven't got a mathematical brain, and I certainly had no interest in going into developing or programming. But what I did learn is that the industry is a really exciting place to be, and there's so much progression and so much excitement, involvement, and pace that something that really appeals to me. I'm quite a high energy person. And as I went around the different parts of the business, the sales floor felt like the place for me, and I started there. And then from that company onwards, I just kept pushing and into lots of different roles, mainly customer focused, sales focused. Definitely learnt a lot more about technology, and I am quite passionate about the strategy with technology, not so much again in the development. But I say worked through various companies until 3 years ago I joined Microsoft, and it's been an incredible journey, but definitely not one that I would have thought I would have been on. You literally couldn't have paid me £1 million if you'd said that I was going to be in IT. So.
I love the variety, though. I think sometimes maybe it's a little bit disheartening sometimes to hear that everyone's wanted to do it since they were 2, and it can feel a bit like, I'm behind the curve then. So it's nice to hear that there's lots of different ways to potentially stumble into tech. So perhaps to start with Deepa for this one, what's the most exciting thing happening in your field at the moment to you?
The most exciting thing for me, it's dealing with end of life on infrastructure. It's a big thing right now in terms of a lot of focus from regulators in making sure that we are kept up to date with our hardware and our software, and we don't have software or hardware that is not supported anymore by software companies or third-party companies, and it's trying to have that negotiation with information security, say you can't use this anymore, but we still have it in the bank. It's going to take some time for us to get off it, and we have to balance risk with business need, and that I'm personally working on, and I'm finding a lot of collaboration needed and for that. But another exciting item is cloud. So it's been mentioned a couple of times today, and from an industry perspective, going onto the public cloud, there's a lot of security concerns on that, and we are working very closely with our internal cybersecurity people, but also with regulators on moving some of our applications onto the public cloud and ensuring that it's actually safe to do so. So we're working very closely with all the tech partners, as well as business, as well as regulators, to make sure that what we're doing is done in a responsible way.
Amazing, thank you. And Grace, what about you? What's exciting you in your field of tech at the moment?
Okay, so the most exciting thing for me is building products, tech products. I'm actually super interested in building products that people want and people need, right? We all use social media apps, dictionary, all of that because we see the need for it, and we are happy that we see something that can actually ease our everyday problem. And that's what I love the most about being in tech, building technological solutions that people can use and can help them release the stress that they go through like day to day. Another thing for me is actually I love to train a lot, so impacting people, that's another thing for me that is quite interesting from my hand, because through tech I've been able to train a lot of people and also teach a lot of people to be who they want to be. A lot of people might not know they can do well in tech. They do not know right from the beginning. A lot of women, right? But talking them through it, telling them that it's possible, that they can go through it and be successful at it, is something that also excites me. Yeah, very well. Thank you.
Well, I can't believe neither of you talked about open AI and generative AI, and that's all we read and see everywhere. But I really think that is pretty exciting. I mean, it's not an area of specialization for me at all, but it's something I'm going to be curious about and learn more about in the coming weeks, months, years, as we really see the impact it can have on the world. You think about some of the world's biggest problems that we have today around, food around the world, water, but the heat and the climate change that we've got to deal with, to see what's coming with open AI and generative AI, which is pretty scary, I think, to some of us. Probably everybody in the room has those questions, and I saw Mission Impossible at the weekend, and it was all about the entity that was going to take over the world, so it's pretty scary, but the opportunities that it presents us, and I think if everybody starts thinking about what that can unlock, I think really we could see real improvements and great things happen in the world over the next 5-10 years. It's in our hands now, and the capabilities there. It's just we've got to come up with the use cases. And I know this isn't the question yet, but when we talk about diversity in the industry, for me, this is why it's really important not just to have people from tech backgrounds, not just to have a load of men. I think we need men, women, young people, old people, all different backgrounds, cultures, opinions, because that's the only way we're going to change the world's problems. Tech isn't just about, a computer on a desktop or a programming code. It's actually how are we going to make things better for people. So I think open AI.
Well, I think let's take that from there then. So let's go to, why is it important to have a diverse tech industry? Why are we bothering to try and make tech more diverse and get more women into tech, or just get more underrepresented people into tech?
I think for me, and I think for everyone, diversity of thought is so important. So having people from various backgrounds, whether it's gender, whether it's cultural differences, whether it's disabilities, or everyone will have a different thought, and that thought provokes debate because people will have different views on certain things, and that debate then sparks innovation and finding the best solution. If you have like-minded people in a room, then you're only going to come up with one solution, whereas if you have people from a diverse background, you will generate more ideas and then get to the best solution.
Okay. I mean, she said it all. That's really it. I think it's really important, right? Like, for example, I'll make an example. Like, okay, we only have women here and want to build a product. And because we are women, we only think in one direction because we think in the women direction, right? Now imagine we have a guy which can actually bring his own idea to the table, and bringing his own idea to the table makes it, oh wow, that's true. We didn't think about that before because we are all thinking in one direction, but because there is another person that is not thinking the same way we are thinking, there is like a positive change and also improved innovation, like she said. So I think it's really important, right? It's really, really, and I think women think emotionally. And having women in an organization, aside, okay, men just want to get things done, but we women, we can actually think it in another direction. What if it harms this person? What if this problem arises, right? There's a way we think that can actually, or is beneficial to an organization. And I think that's why every company needs women. Every company needs a man and a woman, but I would say women especially because we think emotionally, and I think that's really important to building products even at this time.
Yeah, nothing else to add really.
Okay. Oh, that's awesome and super inspiring. I love the point around, we shouldn't just be building tech products for one group of people. And if we want to build tech products that have the widest audience possible and are going to potentially make lots of money and change people's lives, we need the representation of people who the products are being made for in the room. Okay, so I guess on a similar sort of note, have any of you faced or experienced any challenges in your career to date with being a woman in the tech industry? Hopefully not. Not is like no is a good answer, but if you have, maybe you could tell us a little bit about how you navigate that.
I think the industry is changing, definitely for the better. I think, 15, 20 years ago, I definitely felt and had comments made that were quite sexist and quite dismissive of me. I have to say I really don't feel that mainly today. I'm not saying there isn't the odd snipe, but, I guess you get that anyway, right? So I think the industry's done a really great job of changing, but it's still more to do. I would say you have to be bold. I was a bit of a tomboy growing up, so I've never been intimidated by men or blokes. I'm quite happy to sit in a room with a bunch of blokes and just feel they're equal. But I do have friends and colleagues that aren't necessarily the same, and they have had to be very conscious about being forceful and standing up for themselves or just having a voice. So I think that's probably all I would say is if you're not naturally comfortable or confident in a room full of men, unfortunately that does still happen in tech. At Microsoft it doesn't, it's great, but when I go in to see my customers, I talked about Bank of America at Dipa, I worked with a lot of financial services organisations, and I can go in and be the only woman in a room full of 20 blokes. But they're willing to listen and then they're not dismissive, but I think you've just got to be bold and be brave and not be worried about who you are, be proud of your opinions, and realise that you've got something to say, then people will listen.
I'll give you a story. When I first joined Bank of America, I was the only woman in the team, and all they spoke about was football and all men's topics, and I'm like sitting there listening. I didn't like football. I didn't even, when they were talking, oh, this person was offside and this was happening, and I was like, all right, whatever. They then started doing these fantasy football leagues, Premier League football things, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to get involved. So I go, I'm going to do this as well. And they're like, you don't know anything about football. I was like, yeah, but I did a lot of analysis. I did a lot of internet studying, and I went in one of those leagues. Then one year, I actually won it, to everyone's surprise. And then I said, okay, I'm retiring now, I'm done, because it takes a lot of time and effort to do this. I don't know where they get their time from, and in terms of looking at football stats and who's playing and who's not playing and who's scoring goals and who's not. But you have to get involved. And, the other piece is speaking up and putting your hand up to do something. So I briefly touched on, when I spoke earlier, about me taking on a big role. So I came back from my second maternity leave, and my boss at the time said, oh, by the way, I'm resigning. I think you should do this job. And I was like, there's no way I'm running the region for you. I just can't do that. I've got 2 kids under the age of 4. How am I going to manage running the whole region? And I gave him all the reasons why I couldn't do it, and he gave me all the reasons why I could do it. And any man would just put their hand up saying, oh, I can do 3 of the 10 things that are on this list of things to do. I could do 7 of the 10 things. Yeah, I still wouldn't put my hand up, but someone else, a male colleague, would. But anyway, he made me put my hand up and apply for his role, and I got the role. But that was a turning point for me to say, you need to be bold, and you need to say, yes, I will do it, even though it's outside of your comfort zone, because you can do it. You just need that little bit of confidence in yourself to know that you can do it.
Okay, so about challenges, I just mentioned one. One of the major challenges I faced was being intimidated by the knowledge of the opposite gender. Like, I mean, it happens generally, but the fact that a guy, or let's say a man, is more knowledgeable than you in the tech space, you can actually feel intimidated by it, especially if you start at the same time, right? And then at the point I was like, do you have 2 heads? How come you're learning faster than me? I was like, how come? And then because I was so capitalizing on that, I did not grow myself. I just want to say that, there are different people. We are all different. Everybody learn at different pace. As long as you know that you are learning and you know what you're doing, that's the most important thing. Like, even if your friend, which is a guy or any other lady, is there and you're still here, the point is that you are moving and you are going, right? Because that's at the end of it all, that's it. That's what matters, right? It's not about the person that got there first. It's actually about the process you've taken to grow and to actually acquire knowledge in your respective field. So, yeah.
Amazing, thank you. So I think maybe we'll finish on one last question then, and I think I was going to ask you kind of what advice might you give someone who is maybe in an audience position, and hasn't tried tech before, is interested in getting into tech, but maybe is possibly holding themselves back a little bit. There's lots of great kind of nuggets and sound bites to take from all of your answers already, but if you could sum it up, is there a piece of advice that you would give to someone, or that you wish you had when you were starting out?
Yeah, I think a lot of great things have been said today, listening to some of the speakers earlier, and the comments around generation. I think it's great. Like, take advantage of programs that are available, for sure. do as much learning as you can. You know, things like LinkedIn Learning, there's some brilliant, like short bites. Like if you've got a busy life, I've got 3 kids, I find trying to sign up to do courses like intense. But actually finding those little bite-sized learnings, I think is a really great way to just get yourself more comfortable around topics. But I think networking, that's how most people get into jobs, right? Applying for jobs is really hard because you've got to try and stand out, and most of the time it's already been sort of decided or people have got to weigh in. Get yourselves out there, like go to as many events like this, get involved in any of the sort of networks that were sort of brought up before, and put yourself out there and just talk to people, because I can tell you there's a job available for you. There really is. And I guess secondly, just on your skills, you know, again, I think back to not having any IT skills and coming into the industry. Think about the things that people do want. You talked about the behavioral skills. They're just so important, right? Actually, people who say they're going to do what they say they're going to do, people who are reliable, people who are adaptable, people who are curious and wanting to learn, those things are way more important than having some, you know, a skill in a certain area. You can learn the skills, I think. So think about those things that are true to you and make sure they stand out on your CV and on your LinkedIn profiles and all of that. And really talk about those when you're in those networking events so people know what, you know, where, oh great, I think of a perfect company or a perfect other person to connect you to.
All right. My advice is let your voice be heard. That's number one. And is not, I mean, she mentioned going for event, of course. And also, if you can't go to events physically, you can actually leverage your social media. LinkedIn is like number one social media you can leverage to actually network. You don't necessarily need to like go and talk to people. People can see you from your social media, right? And if people can know what you do from your social media, that's networking on its own. You are being seen. The major thing is to be seen, right? And then number two is build your personal brand. Personally, I didn't start out building my personal brand. I was just building. I was busy learning. I was busy learning coding because I wanted to build, right? And then someone told me that, Grace, do you know that someone that is not as good as you is earning thousands of dollars and you are here I'm not even earning nothing yet. I'm like, really? He said, yes. You know, and I learned from that the best known is better than best. If you are the best and you are not known, you cannot be seen as the best. I don't know if you get me. Most of the people that we see right now are because they pictured them to be the best, but not necessarily the best in code, right? And so we have to make sure that we are the best at what we do, and we also come out as the best, because they are two different things. Even if you can build a whole Facebook at once and you are not known to be a good programmer, nobody will call you the best programmer. So that's one thing that I really, and lastly, I put it in my book, and I said that you should learn to build and you should learn to sell. What I mean by that is, if you are growing in your technical skill, whatever technical skill you want to learn is good. Have a good portfolio is very good, because, of course, if you want to do an interview and they're asking you what have you done and there's nothing to show for it, it might be an issue, right? Have something you can build, but you should also be able to sell yourself. What I mean by that is, if you come and meet me now and you say, hey, Grace, what do you do? And I say, oh, yeah, I'm a student. Is that how you do? Like, can you give more details? So you can go ahead and say, yeah, I'm currently a student, but I'm currently learning front-end development. Sell yourself. Like, you need to learn how to do that. Because just like you said in networking event, if you don't know how to sell yourself, even networking event would not still work, right? So you must know how to put yourself out. Say what you do, either small or big, and celebrate small wins. It will really help you in your growth. So yeah.
Well, I think they've stolen what I was going to say. Having an elevator speech, sell yourself. You know, if you are in a lift with someone really, really important, how would you introduce yourself? That's really, really important. And then just do it. Don't feel like you can't do it. And I think I mentioned before, I learned it the hard way. You know, just because you think you can't do it doesn't mean you can't do it. You can do it. You just need that confidence to just get on with it. So if you are passionate about something, just do it. And building your network, that is really, really important as well.
3 incredible bits of advice there. So thank you so much. Can we say a big thank you to our panel? And we're going to be moving on to our last 2 sessions of the day very shortly. So have a minute or so to stretch your legs, grab a refreshment, and we'll be back in just a second. So thank you very much all.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Okay, so we're just going to spend the next 10 minutes talking about how to make a really good application if you choose to apply to a bootcamp. There's no pressure to do so. There's lots of other ways to get into tech, but if it's something that has sparked your interest today, it might be nice to hear about how you can make a really good application and what it is that we're looking for, what it is that we're not looking for as well. So just 10 minutes on this, and then we'll have my colleague Aisling come in and do the last session of the day for those of you in the room, which is going to be our CV surgery. So just for those of you who maybe don't want to do a training program and instead looking to get into a job, she will talk to you a little bit about some top tips for CV, and if you have brought your CV with you, she can do some practical work with you on actually looking through your own CV and seeing how you can refine it and make it even better. So, how to age application. So first off, I'm going to show you a little bit about what an application process with Generation looks like. So this might be similar to other training providers, but this is specifically for Generation. So first off, you'll complete your online application. So all of our applications are online. We'll ask you to complete an application form on the website, giving us some basic details about yourself, obviously your name, your email address, date of birth, where you live, and a few other questions about your circumstances. So are you working? If so, how many hours are you working? What kind of job are you doing? Those kind of questions, so we can get to know you a little bit. We're very much about getting to know our applicants and our learners at Generation. You're kind of not treated like a number. We want to get to know you a bit more on a human level. So we ask you a few questions to help us get to know you a bit more. So you complete the online application. We also then ask you to upload some documents just to show that you meet the eligibility criteria. You don't always have to do it at that point. If you don't have the documents to hand, don't panic. Continue with the application form and just get them to us when you can. But we'll ask you to show us some documents that just show your age, your current address, and the right to work in the UK. So that'll either be a British passport or a visa, whichever of the two. And then what we'll do is ask you to complete a short online task or activity. So this will vary slightly depending on which program you apply to, but it might be a multi-choice quiz, it might be trying your hand at a bit of coding. You don't need to have done it before. We're not testing for prior knowledge. We're just seeing whether you enjoy it and whether you have any good sort of aptitude or potential to be good at it in the future. This is quite a nice thing to do because if you complete the task that's related to the program and you go, oh my goodness, I hated that, maybe it's not the right program for you. So it's a bit like a try before you buy as well. So we'll ask you to do that. That doesn't usually take much more than half an hour or an hour, depending on the program. Oh, there's a bit missing here. That should say group task. So we'll ask you to join us online and have a one-to-one chat or interview. Don't like the word interview, we'll call it a chat, with a member of Generation staff. So it could be me, it could be someone else in the organisation. We'll have a 20-minute conversation and then we'll ask you a few questions, not designed to scare you or trick you, and hopefully it won't feel like a job interview. It's not supposed to. But we'll ask you some questions about, why are you interested in this program? Where did you first hear about it? What brought you to being interested in tech? What we're trying to look at is, how enthusiastic are you about this? Have you considered how you'll fit this program in with your day-to-day life? And are we a good fit for you, just as much as are you a good fit for us? There's lots of training providers who do different things. We're quite specialised in what we do in terms of the support we give you to actually get into work. So we don't just do the training, we also get you into work after. So we need to make sure that actually we're the right choice for you and your life. The second part of this that's just missing here is the group task. So just after you interview on the same day, we will ask you to stay online and you'll get together with maybe 3 or 4 other applicants to the same programme, and we'll put you in an online sort of Zoom room and we'll give you a really silly task to do. Nothing like kind of miming or anything like that, nothing too embarrassing. But we might give you a task to do like, pretend that as a group you're going into space and you need to pack the items that you're going to take with you. And you need to come up with those items as a group. And the reason we do this is because our classrooms are quite interactive. So I mentioned before that we're not like traditional distance learning where you see your instructor and that's it. And you don't see anyone else and it feels lonely and you feel isolated. It's not like that. We don't need you to be really, really extroverted. I'm not, a lot of people aren't, that's okay, you don't need to be. What we're looking for in the group task is just whether you feel comfortable having a chat with other people. That's all it is. So that's why we give you a really silly task that's nothing to do with the program itself, just to see whether you can relax into kind of talking to other people in a small group. So hopefully it's quite fun. Most people say it's quite fun to do. And then after that, hopefully, all being well, you get the offer. So as part of getting the offer, we asked you to do a 20-minute conversation with one of the mentors. So we talked a bit earlier about the support you get from mentors on the program and the support you get pre-program. So this takes the form of this 20-minute conversation where they will ask you a few questions to understand what your support needs are. So, as I said, are you a carer for someone? Are you a parent? Do you have mental health challenges you'd like us to know about? Do you have a part-time job that you're going to have to balance? Do you have a physical health condition? Whatever it might be honest with us. It's really, really important to be honest with us so that we can help you to the best of our ability. So as I say, you do that, and then we get the offer. And then this bit here, sadly we're not physically shaking hands with you because we won't be online, but we'll send you an offer letter that you will sign and accept, and then you will do a couple of weeks of onboarding onto the program. So the really nice thing about what we do is we don't just launch you straight into the program with using different tech and software that you haven't come across before and meeting instructor for the first time on day one, which can be a bit nerve-wracking, a bit daunting. What we do is we give you a couple of weeks run-up to the program. So you'll come in online for a couple of sessions that are induction sessions. So you'll get to meet the other people who are going to be in your class. You'll get to meet your instructor, the mentor that's attached to your class, and just ease in that way. And they will teach you how to use some of the software that we use. If we've lent you a laptop, which we can happily do if you don't have one at home, we'll make sure you understand how to use that and your login set up and you feel really comfortable so that when it comes to day one of the program, you log on at 9 o'clock or 9:30 and you go, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to do this. So that's what the application process looks like. So what are we actually looking for? And what are we not looking for, just as importantly? So we are looking for enthusiasm. So you don't have to be jumping around all over the place. You don't have to be super extroverted. But we are looking to see that you want to do this. You know, we're not in the business of trying to make people do something they don't want to do. So it's really important that you want to do this. Secondly, motivation. And I think sometimes motivation can have lots of different meanings or different interpretations. But to us, it means your reason. So what is your reason or your why for doing this? What is going to get you out of bed every morning on your program, particularly on the more challenging days? Because there's going to be things that you find challenging about the program. You're learning something new for the first time, and that can be challenging sometimes. What's going to keep you going? Why do you want to do this? I really recommend having a little think or taking a bit of time to have a think about what your reason is before you apply. Because if you don't know what your reason is, you're going to find it really challenging to help us understand what it is. And we can't make it up for you. Your reasons are going to be different to everyone else. They might be similar, but they will be different and they'll be unique. Commitment as well. So we're looking for people who know and understand, the length of the program. Are going to be able to commit to the entirety of the program. As I said before, we know that life happens sometimes. You might get ill, you might need to take care of a sick kid. We get that and we can deal with that as and when it happens. But you need to have the best of intentions that you're going to commit to the program. And then a willingness to learn as well. So just coming in and being open-minded and accepting there's going to be loads of stuff here I don't know, and that's okay. I'm a work in progress here. I don't need to be the finished product. I don't need to worry or maybe feel defensive about what I don't know, because that's why I'm here, and everyone's in the same boat. And then lastly, honesty. And the reason I put this on here is because we are a little bit different to applying for a traditional job. If you are applying for a job, it might be very tempting to sort of show your best self and maybe embellish a little bit or exaggerate your skills or achievements a little bit. We don't want you to do that. We want you to be as honest as possible with us, because that's how we're going to support you to the best of our ability. So all the things you might traditionally feel like you need to hide or play down in a job interview, we want to know about. We want to get to know you so that we can support you to the best of our ability. And then lastly, what we're not looking for, I touched on this earlier, but I think it's worth repeating, is lots and lots of qualifications or loads of professional experience. So if you have a degree, don't worry, you can still apply to the programs and we will look at you on an individual basis, but we're not actively looking for that, so don't panic if you don't have that. We're actively trying to seek people who don't have loads and loads of qualifications to give more people opportunity to get into the industry. And as I said before, we're not looking for lots of professional experience either. We're looking for people who have got very limited professional experience or no professional experience. We work with a lot of people on our boot camps who have never worked, who've never had a job in their life. And then they're graduating as a cloud engineer and they're going on to earn £26,000, £27,000 a year and then progressing within a year or so to even better salaries after that. And then I thought what I'd finish on is how do you show these qualities? Because it's okay for me to kind of give you some words, some buzzwords like enthusiasm, motivation. I think it's more helpful if I just tell you what that looks like in practice. What does that look like to us when we see it in people? So in enthusiasm, it's about how you present yourself. So if I was, I haven't got a lectern up here, but if I did, and I was sort of hiding behind it and sort of stood like this and scowling at you, you would think, she doesn't really want to be here. She's not having a very good time here. So just thinking about how you present yourself. Like I said before, you don't need to be a massive extrovert. That's okay. But just when you're having your interview or you're doing your group task on Zoom, thinking about, I'm going to put the light on. I'm going to sit up. I'm going to try and make eye contact, even through a camera. You know, I'm going to smile a little bit. You know, you don't need to present someone who's not you, but just thinking about how you're coming across is important. And then giving everything your best self, so trying your best at each of the stages. Motivation to us, when we see it, is simple things like completing application stages on time. So when we give you a time frame by which we'd like you to complete something by, being able to do that. Or if you can't do that because life happens, letting us know, and we can be really flexible. And then secondly, as I said before, understanding why you want to do the course. So what is your reason? What is your why? If you understand that, you're going to be able to communicate it to us, and we're going to think, yeah, this person knows what they're talking about, they really want to do this. Commitment to us, when we see it, is applicants who've shown that they've done a little bit of research on the course. So if any of you apply to a boot camp, one of our boot camps, and don't mention that you've come to an event today or watched it online, I'd be sorely disappointed, because that is an amazing way of showing us that you're enthusiastic, motivated, and committed, because you've taken the time to register for an event, or either watch it online or come to a venue to experience the event. That shows us all of these things. And also just showing us that you spent a few minutes on the website or half an hour on the website reading through the programs, watching some of our videos on the website, reading through some of the testimonials from previous graduates. That's how you can show your commitment. I think willingness to learn, so having a little bit of an idea of some areas that you might like to develop in. You don't have to know all of them because you might not know what you don't know yet. You know, you might not understand what your areas for development are in the tech world, but you might understand, actually, maybe I'm naturally quite shy and I'd like to get a bit better at communicating. Opening up like that in your interview process will help us think, okay, actually they've put a bit of thought into this. They know what areas they want to develop in. That's going to really help us hone in on those areas for you and support you with it. And showing your excitement for the learning process as well as the job at the end. So we know people are excited to get into that career, and that is the main reason you're doing this, and that is absolutely fine. But 10 weeks is a long time to be really miserable on a course. So if you can also be excited about the process that you're going to go through and the learning that you're going to do and the development you're going to experience as a person, that's even better than just being excited or motivated by the job at the end. And then lastly, I'm going to finish on honesty. I know I've kind of talked through this before, but I really like repeating this one. I don't think I can drill it in enough. So just talking to us really openly, as comfortable as you can be, about your life and your experiences. So whatever has happened in your life that has presented a barrier or a challenge for you getting into employment or getting into the tech industry, we want to know about it. We need to know about it. Okay? So as I said before, we're a non-profit. We're not looking to make lots of money. We're not a commercial organisation taking money off everyone. Everything we do is completely free with no catches. The programme is free. We can provide you a laptop and Wi-Fi for the duration of the course if you need it. So we're not interested in, profiting off of you, but we do want to support you to the best of our ability. So anything that has been a barrier to you or a challenge that has prevented you getting into the tech industry or getting a job at all or being employed at all is something we want to know about. We would consider that actually just being female or identifying as a woman is a barrier to get into the tech industry. So you've kind of got that already. So you're already kind of one step ahead of the game now. So anything else that you have experienced in your life, tell us about. We want to know about it. Okay, and that is it for my presentation. So this is the last session that our online audience are going to be joining us on. So if you have joined us online today, thank you so much for joining us. Please reach out if you have any more questions, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much.